Hello ladies and gentlemen, MarauderEX here with the Sega Saturn startup screen. I'm here starting off my next LP, and I've told you all it's going to be Shining Force 3 for the Sega Saturn, obviously with the Saturn loading screen. I was only going to do Scenario 1, but after my Q&A video, a lot of people started talking to me about the process of modding a Saturn to play the fan-translated versions of Scenarios 2 and 3. And I've been dying to play those. I have a spare Saturn. I'm going to go ahead and try that. So what I'm going to do is I'm re-recording what I've started on Scenario 1. I'd already started it by the time the Q&A video started. I got about 10 parts in, but I wasn't playing with the grand scheme of being able to play all 3 scenarios in mind. So I skimmed over a couple of things. I made a couple of mistakes that I don't want to make if I'm going to be playing this as the trilogy that it's supposed to be played as. So I'm redoing this. I may also be doing an LP before this one, depending on how long it actually takes me to mod said Saturn and get Scenarios 2 and 3 up and running. Hopefully I'll get that done before Scenario 1 is finished, and therefore I can just jump seamlessly into Scenario 2. But I just want to give a heads up on that. Granted, if you guys are seeing this, it may be a moot point. Anyway, I'm getting totally off track. So, what we're going to start now is we're going to start Scenario 1. I'm going to do my best to play it as it should be played for all 3 scenarios. I'm going to point out a lot of the stuff that links the scenarios together, and we'll go through that as it happens. But instead of just playing Scenario 1, I'm going to go ahead and go for it. I'm going to try to do all 3 scenarios. It may not work, and this may still just be a Scenario 1 playthrough only, depending on if I can get all of this to work. But as of now, the plan is to try to go for all 3 parts. So if it works well, then we're going to get all 3 parts. If it doesn't work well, then we're going to have a part 1 playthrough as if we were playing all 3 parts, and we'll be no worse for the wear. So, without further ado, we're going to start this bad boy up. I'm going to be quiet during the opening cinematics because I love the opening cinematics for this game. It was just impressive. The now loading screen brought from Shining the Holy Ark. Sonic and Camelot present Shining Force 3. Enjoy. And I'm back. That, to this day, is still one of the coolest cinematics in game openings that I've seen. So, let's start this bad boy off. And we remember the fairy from Shining Wisdom, Gudo Fairy. The wizard with the dangly star and the very intricate staff. He's new. Apparently Gudo Fairy's name is Faye. Alright. Like I said, we have a save file. Well, actually we have... Why do I have 2 save files? Well, either or, we're getting rid of those save files. And we're starting from scratch. As I didn't get very far into it, I only got a couple of parts recorded. But, we're going to start a brand new game. And are we sure that the Gudo Fairy is a good judge of character? Because I don't think she is. She seems a little more mischievous in this one, so I don't know if it's the same fairy. I hope it is. That would be so awesome to actually link the games together as well as I can. Nope, the fairy didn't tell us anything. See, this is a much more complicated opening. All of the other Shining games were just, hey, we're either telling a story or you're stuck here, and now it's a little weirder. Alright, so in Shining Force 3, we get to name 3 characters, because in each scenario you play as a different character. The first character, the fury of this man's soul, can burn hotter and hotter as he releases the savageness of a tiger. He shall be named Symbios. He is the hero of Scenario 1, and we're going to keep the name Symbios. Brilliant man with a never-failing composure, he has the iron will that can't be swayed by emotions. He fights like a dragon and slices through the battlefield like the wind. He shall be named Median. Yeah, we're going to keep that name as well. Scenarios 1 and 2 are special because they happen at the exact same time, and just from 2 different points of view. One from Symbios, one from Median. The third scenario, the hero is... he rises above all others with his strong spirit, but carries with him a sorrow, a past full of sadness. Once released of the sorrow, his soul will soar as he becomes a wolf with... Okay, wolves don't soar. I always think they keep talking about an eagle of some sort. He shall be named Julian. Julian is the main character of Scenario 3. And Scenario 3 doesn't happen at the same time, but it picks up at the tail events of Scenarios 1 and 2, and then continues on for the resolution of the story. So, all 3 characters' major influences in the game, they all appear throughout the game, so we want to get accustomed to who our heroes are going to be. And Shining Force 3, very much like Shining Force 1, is chapter-based. Chapter 1 is Nightmare in the Floating City of Saraband. In this game, you cannot go back to towns, just like in Shining Force 1. So if we don't do something in Chapter 1, in a town in Chapter 1, you're not going to go back and be able to do it again. So, it's just one of those things. And I apologize for any lack of or drop of quality. Debut really does not like the panning sections that the Saturn does. And as you can see, Saraband is a city that's actually on a giant raft, complete with flower vendors, 2 mage-looking people. Flower girls get easily scared. And the mage-looking person now becomes a knight-looking person. That's something we want to pay attention to for later. We'll see that in probably part 2. We probably won't see that in part 1 yet. Actually, no, we'll see it. We should see it in the rest of part 1. And then, sitting here, there's a couple of people who look bored out of their skull, don't they? These, you may recognize her from the opening cinematic as the elf with the magic staff floating in space being attacked by Minotaur. Here she decides she's gonna start peeking in, and denied. And we'll just go in instead of, yeah. Alright, that sound effect is actually really funny because that's the sound effect that we'll hear later in the game for the bolt spells, just to emphasize just how booming his voice is at the moment. So we come into a room with a bunch of people. Brutus, kind of a troll-looking man, honestly. I hate Brutus. The peace conference with the Empire. So that's the backstory that's going on now. We are members of the newly formed Republic. Edmund, Tybalt, Brutus are top advisors and top generals in the Republic. And we are currently at a peace conference held in a neutral town of Saraband. Saraband, neutral because it floats. It's in the ocean. No one really claims dominion over the ocean. At least not in this game, except for Saraband. And the events that led up to this peace conference is... So the Republic split, took the capital of Aspenia, which used to be Imperial land. And it used to be a giant Imperial castle. Now we are fighting to keep that castle, and the Empire is taking over Republic territory, claiming that it was originally theirs, which it was, but it's kind of like that whole gray area with the US Revolution, like the Revolutionary War. We didn't want to be a part of your country, and we don't want you here in what will be our country. So it's kind of that gray area. It depends on whose side you're looking at on, and that's the whole point of scenarios 2 and 3, is to show from different perspectives. But one of the Republic territories of Baron had just been taken over, and it started by people in the Republic are not happy with conditions because they don't have money, they don't have resources, they don't have a military. They're poor. I mean, that's what happens when you separate from a major power. And instead, they asked for Imperial aid, and the Empire used that as a means of steamrolling in and taking over the area again. Which, Barrand is also the Holy Land, which we'll get into the religious implications of this game later. Danteres, one of the few non-humans in the room. Well, I think he's the only non-human. I really think Brutus is a human. He just looks like a troll of a man. The Holy Land of Elbasim. Elbasim is their god. This world is kind of monotheistic, so there is one god, and that's Elbasim. But even without the problems going on in Barrand, Danteres, being kind of level-headed, points out that the Emperor would have gone after Barrand in time anyway, because of its strategic value. So the Republic has its share of problems. They have no money, they have no food, people are just in a bad sort all over, so... But the downside is the Empire has the money, the food, the resources, but it's a much more totalitarian state because the royal family is a massive pain. They are very much holders to an aristocracy, very class-driven. General Varlant, we'll meet him later. They're going to be naming a lot of people in this that we won't know now. So this is the downside to this game is unless you're reading it and ignoring me talking, which I kind of hope you are because there's a lot going on. They're going to mention a lot of names in a lot of places that aren't going to make sense until a little bit later. So. And this is the man of great importance. That is Benetrim. He is the king of the Republic, which makes no sense to me because I don't see how a Republic can have a king. It's a very interesting governing system he could be the leader of the Republic, which would be kind of an elected official or a head of a parliamentary type, but a king makes no sense. And now we get to us, basically, Symbios, filling in for our father Conrad. So we weren't actually supposed to be here today. Our father was supposed to be here, but he is not in the best of health, and so making a journey like this would not have suited him well. But that will play a part in the later story. Foreshadowing. And again, mentioning Varlant. Varlant is a very hot-headed individual. So instead of going with Varlant, they chose Conrad's son, which leads me to believe that we have a fair bit of military and strategic training, mainly because of our father. So, and it seems that we are employed in the Republic military in some way, shape, or form. And Benetrim is always really good at stating the truth or an obvious fact in a way that doesn't sound like he's just being condescending or insulting. Talk about violence, like, yeah, he shouldn't be here. He's hot-headed. And one thing you'll notice that they will do with the text is they will either gray out or change the color of the text to indicate what type of tone the text is supposed to take. So as you're reading it, if you see like the bold yellow or the gray or even sometimes multicolored text, depending on who you're talking to, that gives you an idea of what you're supposed to be, how it's supposed to be conveyed. And another foreshadowing. Lord Symbios may still be young, but I see him carrying the future of the Republic on his back someday. Damn it, Dantares, you just had to. And like any Shining game, the main character is silent. At least in Scenario 1. Scenario 1, Symbios will be quiet, but any interaction between Symbios and Median will have dialogue in Scenario 1, but he won't have dialogue in Scenario 2, but Symbios will. So it's meant for you to fill in again. It's your take on the situation. And Brutus was also mentioning that there's a strange group of people in the town of Balsamo, which is right near here. Masked monks. And they are very much members of a weird religious sect, so they are of great importance. Masked pagan monks. Like, really, Benedict, you just had to emphasize that? With pagan nonsense. Those monks sound like a bunch of cranks. Dantares is really my favorite character in this game. He's just fantastic. They claim they pray for peace, and Benetrim instantly just goes to the, well, what if they're evil? Which they are. Anyone who people who wear masks are generally not of the pleasant sort. Benetrim, you're a pessimist. There are nuts everywhere. Well, yeah, true. And I love how Benetrim's already heard about them. Like, what? So, the peace conference It sounds like it's been going on for a little while, but it doesn't sound like it's made any headway. And Mascarin comes in with a messenger from Saraband. And doesn't he look kind of familiar? Looks like that knight that we saw, but he's missing the flowers. And he's here early, apparently. Lord Garvin is the governor of Saraband, and he's generally in charge of the free territories, the places that are not, in fact, owned by Republic or Imperial domain, which there seems to be 2 to 3 different places. And he's inviting the Emperor and the King to an informal council without the advisors in the room. Yes, informal obviously an excuse. And Benetrim, who was just being called a pessimist, says doesn't sound like a bad idea. That sounds like a terrible idea. That sounds like a great way to assassinate 2 high-ranking officials at once. And Tybalt, he claims that he's the aggrieved party because the Empire just recently took the town of Baron, which he was in charge of. But because he's also in charge of that, and he's very upset, that may not be the best thing for an actual peace conference. And lastly, Benetrim asks us to do something. He wants us to go speak to the people of the town, just to learn what we can. And he's kind of a smart man, because he realizes that even though that they're going to go meet, it's not going to fix everything. So he wants us to talk to the people, to learn the people's perspective. Imperial Knight by the name of Campbell, accompanying the youngest Prince Median. Yes, he killed a bunch of our people. You should go ask for his autograph. That sounds fantastic. Alright, so now that that's over, they're leaving, and it's pretty much time for us to go. Yep, he's gone. What do we do now? You want to play a game of cards? Alright, so time for us to go. And Dontarius the Knight has joined the Force. Granted, he was never really apart from the Force, so that's how it goes. Alright, I'll end this episode here, and I'll see you guys in part 2. Till then, later everyone.